Hey, welcome back to the channel. What if I told you a tiny copper penny, once used to buy bread or a tram ticket, could now be worth nearly $500,000? This isn't a myth. This is the unbelievable story of Australia's one penny. A coin so rare and pristine, it has become a millionaire's treasure. Let's moving on. First up, the 1949 Australian one penny is one of those remarkable treasures in numismatics that proves how the most unassuming piece of copper can transform into an object of immense desire, prestige, and financial worth. At face value, it was intended to be nothing more than a coin of small change, circulating through the hands of millions of Australians in the post-war era. Yet today, in its finest and rarest form, the 1949 Australian one penny commands an astonishing market valuation of $200,000. This is no ordinary coin, it is a masterpiece of rarity, history and preservation, a tangible fragment of Australia's heritage that has become one of the most coveted trophies in coin collecting. To understand why the 1949 penny has achieved such an elevated position, one must return to its origins in post-World War II Australia. By 1949, the country was in the midst of reconstruction and transition, recovering from the immense strains of war while entering a new period of growth and modernization. Pennies were still the lifeblood of commerce, used for bread, milk, tram fares, and every form of daily transaction. The coins bore the portrait of King George VI, a symbol of stability and continuity after the turbulence of the 1930s and 1940s. At the same time, the kangaroo reverse design, introduced only a decade earlier, had now firmly established itself as the defining emblem of Australia's coinage. The leaping kangaroo was more than just an animal. It was a national identity proudly struck into copper, circulated into the hands of everyday Australians. Yet amidst millions of ordinary pennies, the 1949 issue holds a secret: extraordinary rarity at the highest levels of preservation. While standard 1949 pennies were produced in large numbers and survive in abundance, the difference lies in the handful of examples that were struck under the best conditions and have survived untouched, preserving their brilliance as if frozen in time. These coins, certified at the very top of the grading scale, are virtually flawless. Every detail of the king's portrait sharp, every line of the kangaroo crisp, and the copper surfaces glowing with original mint luster. They are living time capsules untouched by circulation, representing the absolute best of Australia's minting capability in that era. Condition is everything in the numismatic world. A circulated 1949 penny may be little more than a curiosity, worth only a few dollars. But when a coin of this year is found in pristine mint state, with near-perfect detail and untouched surfaces, it enters an entirely different realm of collectability. It is this realm that produces six-figure valuations. The $200,000 price tag, attached to the finest known 1949 penny, reflects not only its rarity, but its status as one of the very best surviving specimens, a coin that surpasses the limits of ordinary preservation. It is a prize so rare that few collectors will ever have the chance to see it, let alone own it. The financial significance of such a coin cannot be overstated. In an era when investors seek alternative assets that combine stability with cultural value, rare coins occupy a special place. Unlike commodities or stocks, which fluctuate with markets, a coin like the 1949 penny is defined by its scarcity. There will never be more than the handful of gem-quality specimens that exist today. This finite supply, combined with growing global demand, ensures that values remain strong and often rise with time. For collectors, the coin represents the pinnacle of achievement. For investors, it represents diversification into a tangible asset that transcends traditional markets. And for historians, it represents a cultural artifact preserved in perfect form. Auction houses treat the 1949 penny with reverence. When one comes up for sale, it is unveiled as if it were a fine painting or a rare manuscript. Auction catalogs devote entire pages to high-resolution photographs, detailed condition reports, and narratives of its provenance. Serious bidders are invited to private previews, where they can examine the coin under careful lighting, appreciating its gleaming surfaces and flawless details. The bidding itself is often intense, with collectors and investors from across the world vying for a chance to secure such a rarity. For the winner, it is not just a purchase, it is an acquisition of prestige, of history, and of a national treasure that few will ever possess. Provenance plays a crucial role in the coin's story. The rarest 1949 pennies can often be traced through decades of careful ownership, passing from one distinguished collector to another. Each custodian becomes part of the coin's narrative, ensuring its survival and enhancing its mystique. To acquire such a coin is to join this lineage, to become part of the unbroken chain of stewardship that has carried it from the minting presses of 1949 into the modern age. But what makes the 1949 penny truly fascinating is its paradox. It was designed to be ordinary, a coin for daily commerce, never meant to be admired beyond its simple utility. And yet, through chance, preservation, and human fascination with rarity, it has become extraordinary. What once bought a bus ticket or a loaf of bread now commands a value greater than a luxury car, greater than many family homes. It is the ultimate transformation of small change into priceless legacy, the very essence of why numismatics captivates collectors across the globe. Looking to the future, the trajectory of the 1949 Australian one penny suggests only continued growth in value and prestige. As global wealth expands, competition for the finest rarities intensifies. The supply of such coins, however, is absolutely fixed. There are no new discoveries to be made, no additional minting runs to be found. What exists today is all that will ever exist. This imbalance between supply and demand assures that coins like the 1949 penny will only become more desirable, more valuable, and more symbolic of cultural heritage as time passes. The 1949 Australian one penny, valued today at $200,000, is therefore far more than a coin. It is a fragment of history preserved in flawless copper, a piece of national identity expressed in design, and a trophy of numismatics that commands awe wherever it appears. It embodies the resilience of post-war Australia, the artistry of minting, and the timeless truth that rarity, history, and preservation can transform the most ordinary of objects into treasures of staggering worth. For collectors, investors, and historians alike, it is not merely a penny, it is a masterpiece, a symbol of legacy, and a crown jewel in the world of Australian coinage. Next up, the 1941 Australian one penny is a coin that encapsulates history, rarity, and extraordinary value, standing today with an astonishing market worth of $1,300,000. To most people, the word penny conjures images of pocket change, a coin tossed into a drawer or used for small purchases. But within the world of numismatics, the art and science of coin collecting, the 1941 penny is a towering treasure, a copper masterpiece that commands both reverence and awe. Its story is not only about money, but about survival, legacy, and the unpredictable alchemy that transforms ordinary objects into icons of wealth and heritage. The historical setting of 1941 was one of urgency, uncertainty, and resilience. Australia, like much of the world, was in the grip of the Second World War. Resources were scarce, production was strained, and every aspect of daily life bore the weight of conflict. Against this backdrop, coins continued to be struck, serving their humble role in commerce while the world reeled in chaos. Yet within this production came coins so finely preserved, so exceptionally rare, that they would one day emerge as objects of immense fascination. The 1941 penny carries within its copper surface the echoes of a nation at war, while simultaneously becoming a beacon of peace, stability, and prosperity in its afterlife as a collectible. The design itself is iconic. On one side sits the portrait of King George VI, the monarch whose reign was defined by the challenges of wartime, leadership, and the determination to uphold stability amidst turmoil. His profile, dignified and commanding, symbolized continuity for Australians who were contributing to a global fight. On the reverse, the leaping kangaroo, first introduced a few years prior, had already become the hallmark of Australian coinage. Strong, agile, and distinctively national, the kangaroo symbol embodied resilience and identity. To hold this coin was to hold a piece of Australia itself. But design alone does not account for its staggering modern valuation. What elevates the 1941 penny to the realm of 7 figures is its extreme rarity and top condition. Millions of pennies were minted during this era, and most entered circulation, where they quickly accumulated wear, scratches, and the scars of daily use. Finding a 1941 penny in circulated grades today is not difficult. They can be acquired easily by hobbyists. But finding one in near-perfect, gem-quality mint state, a coin that retains its full brilliance, with every line sharp and every surface glowing, with original luster, is almost impossible. Those few coins that exist in this condition are numismatic miracles, preserved by accident or by foresight, hidden away for generations until their true value was recognized. This is why a 1941 Australian penny, in the highest known grade, can command a valuation of $1.3 million. In the world of coins, condition is the ultimate differentiator. A well-worn example may be worth only a few dollars, but in flawless mint state, the same date can cross into the realm of life-changing wealth. This difference, driven by scarcity and the perfection of preservation, is what makes numismatics both exhilarating and deeply rewarding. Auction houses treat coins like the 1941 penny as if they were Rembrandts or ancient manuscripts. When one appears on the market, it is unveiled in glossy catalogs with full-page photographs, detailed technical descriptions, and a narrative that weaves together its condition, provenance, and significance. Collectors from across the globe are drawn into the competition, each hoping to claim a piece of history that transcends currency and enters the realm of art. Bidding wars erupt, with prices escalating rapidly until the hammer falls on figures that would have been unimaginable to the people who once used the coin for a tram ride or a loaf of bread. The provenance of a coin like this only adds to its mystique. Often, such rare examples have been preserved in private collections for decades, passed down through families or held in vaults as symbols of wealth and heritage. Each new custodian adds their name to the story of the coin, becoming part of a chain of ownership that stretches back to its creation in 1941. This continuity of stewardship gives the coin not only financial value but a narrative richness that collectors cherish. To acquire such a penny is not merely to own copper, it is to inherit a story, a legacy, and a national symbol. What makes the 1941 penny even more extraordinary is the transformation of its value. What was once worth 1 cent, a fraction of a loaf of bread or a bus fare, has now become worth more than a luxury yacht, more than a sprawling estate, more than most people will earn in a lifetime. This contrast is part of the allure. It demonstrates the unpredictability of history, the way time, chance, and human fascination can elevate the ordinary into the extraordinary. It is this metamorphosis that draws investors and collectors alike, fueling a passion that transcends money. From an investment perspective, coins like the 1941 penny represent a unique class of tangible assets. Unlike stocks or bonds, their value is not tied to fluctuating markets, but to fixed supply and enduring demand. There will never be more top-quality 1941 pennies than those that exist today. The supply is set, finite, and dwindling as coins become locked into private collections. Meanwhile, global interest in rare coins continues to grow, particularly among high net worth individuals who seek diversification into portable, prestigious, and culturally significant assets. This dynamic ensures that values remain strong and often climb with time. For historians, the coin is a portal into a turbulent chapter of Australia's past. It reminds us of wartime sacrifices, of a nation producing currency amidst uncertainty, and of the endurance of national identity symbolized in the kangaroo and the crown. For collectors, it is the ultimate trophy, a symbol of connoisseurship and achievement. For investors, it is a store of immense value in an uncertain world. And for the broader public, it is a story of wonder, how a penny could come to be worth more than a fortune. The 1941 Australian 1 penny, valued today at $1,300,000, is therefore not just a coin. It is history in copper, a masterpiece of preservation, a testament to rarity, and a beacon of Australia's heritage. It proves that even the smallest denomination can, under the right circumstances, become an object of immeasurable worth. It is a reminder that greatness often hides in the most unexpected places, waiting for time, chance, and human fascination to bring it into the light. Next up, the 1948 Australian 1 penny is a shining example of how numismatics transforms everyday objects into treasures of staggering value. At first glance, it is nothing more than a copper coin, a humble piece once exchanged for tram fares, bread or milk in post-war Australia. But in its finest, most pristine form, the 1948 penny has risen far beyond its original purpose, commanding a market valuation of $300,000. This single coin embodies the perfect intersection of rarity, condition, history, and national identity, qualities that make it not only valuable but legendary in the eyes of collectors and investors alike. To truly appreciate the majesty of the 1948 penny, we must return to its historical context. The year marked a transitional phase for Australia. The Second World War had ended only 3 years earlier, and the nation was still rebuilding its industries, economy, and cultural confidence. Coins remained essential to everyday commerce, circulating in the millions, as Australians embraced new beginnings while carrying the weight of wartime memory. The penny, the lowest unit of currency, played an indispensable role in daily transactions. In this environment, the 1948 Australian 1 penny was struck at the Melbourne Mint, continuing the tradition of copper coinage that had defined Australia since Federation. The design of the coin is both simple and iconic. On the obverse is the portrait of King George VI, the monarch whose reign was inseparably tied to the global conflicts of the era and to the recovery that followed. His profile projects strength, dignity, and continuity, a reminder of the monarchy's influence across the Commonwealth. On the reverse, the leaping kangaroo design, first introduced in 1938, had already become Australia's numismatic signature. The kangaroo, captured mid-bound, symbolized the energy, resilience, and independence of the nation. This design, framed by the inscription Australia and the denomination penny, is one of the most recognizable in Australian coinage history. Yet what elevates the 1948 penny to an elite, multi-millionaire's prize is not its design alone, but the extreme rarity of flawless examples. Millions of pennies were minted that year, and countless circulated heavily in commerce. These ordinary examples can be acquired today by beginners in the hobby for only a few dollars. But the difference between a circulated coin and a pristine, mint-state survivor is nothing short of extraordinary. Coins in superb uncirculated condition, preserving their sharp detail, original luster, and immaculate surfaces, are so scarce that they have become near mythical within the numismatic community. The financial leap is staggering. A well-worn 1948 penny is a historical curiosity. A gem quality, uncirculated example is a trophy commanding upwards of $300,000. This price tag reflects the fierce competition among collectors to secure one of the finest known survivors. Grading agencies, whose task it is to certify the condition and authenticity of coins, are the arbiters of this transformation. A penny in poor condition might barely be noted, but one graded at the absolute top of the scale becomes a legend, sought after by the world's most distinguished collectors. Auction houses treat the 1948 penny with the same reverence reserved for fine art or rare manuscripts. When such a coin surfaces, it is presented under the brightest lights, photographed in meticulous detail, and described in glowing catalogue entries that highlight its condition, provenance, and rarity. Bidders from across the globe, collectors, investors, and even museums vie for the chance to secure it. The energy in the auction room is electric, the competition fierce, as each increment raises the stakes until the gavel falls and history is made. Provenance, too, adds to the mystique of the 1948 penny. Rare examples often carry a pedigree that stretches back decades, having been carefully preserved by visionary collectors who recognized their potential long before the broader market caught up. To acquire such a coin is to join this prestigious lineage, to add one's name to the coin's story, and to become a steward of history as much as a custodian of value. What makes the story of the 1948 penny truly astonishing is the transformation it represents. This coin was once worth only a cent. It passed through the mint with little fanfare, intended for circulation among millions of ordinary Australians. And yet, through the passage of time and the forces of rarity, condition, and human fascination, it has become worth as much as luxury cars, fine jewelry, or even entire properties. This metamorphosis embodies the very essence of numismatics, the discovery of extraordinary value hidden within the ordinary. For investors, the 1948 penny represents a rare opportunity to diversify into tangible, cultural assets. Unlike traditional investments, coins like this are finite. What exists today is all that will ever exist. There is no way to create more, no way to reproduce the unique circumstances of their survival. This scarcity, paired with growing global demand, ensures their enduring appeal and increasing value. Wealthy collectors and investors alike recognize the stability and prestige that come with owning such pieces, knowing that beyond their monetary worth, these coins carry cultural and historical significance. For historians, the 1948 penny provides a tangible connection to the post-war era, encapsulating the optimism, resilience, and national identity of the time. For collectors, it represents the pinnacle of achievement, the ultimate prize that few will ever own. And for the broader public, it offers a captivating story, how something so small, so ordinary could rise to such extraordinary heights. The 1948 Australian 1 penny, valued at $300,000, is therefore far more than a coin. It is history captured in copper, a national symbol preserved in perfection, and a numismatic masterpiece revered across the globe. It teaches us that greatness often lies hidden in plain sight, waiting for time, preservation, and human fascination to reveal its true worth. It is at once a relic, a treasure, an investment, and a legend, a key coin that has earned its place among the most celebrated rarities in Australia's rich numismatic tradition. Next up, the 1942 Australian 1 penny is one of the most remarkable examples of how a simple copper coin can transcend its humble beginnings and ascend into the realm of true numismatic legend. At face value, it was worth no more than the smallest unit of currency. Change that passed through countless hands during a period of global turmoil. Yet today, in its finest form, the 1942 penny carries a staggering valuation of $150,000, placing it firmly among the most valuable and sought-after coins in Australian history. This single coin embodies the rarity, history, and prestige that transform an object of everyday utility into a masterpiece of heritage and wealth. To understand the significance of the 1942 penny, we must first immerse ourselves in its historical backdrop. Australia in 1942 was a nation under immense strain. The Second World War had reached the Pacific, and the country faced direct threats to its borders for the first time. Resources were scarce, industries were redirected to military production, and every aspect of life was shaped by uncertainty. Yet even in such times, coinage continued to flow from the mints, ensuring that the economy and daily life could continue. The pennies struck that year were practical, indispensable tools of commerce, used for bread, tram fares, and countless other necessities in households across the nation. The design itself carried immense cultural and symbolic weight. On the obverse is the portrait of King George VI, whose reign was defined by wartime leadership, resilience, and the maintenance of stability across the Commonwealth. His image projected authority and continuity in a period of global upheaval. On the reverse, the now iconic leaping kangaroo had already become an unmistakable emblem of Australia's coinage, having been introduced in 1938. Strong, agile, and distinctly Australian, the kangaroo was more than decoration. It was a declaration of national identity struck into copper, a symbol of the country's independence, strength, and character. Yet within the millions of 1942 pennies produced, there exists a tiny fraction whose survival, in immaculate condition, elevates them beyond imagination. Most coins from this era saw heavy use, their surfaces worn and dulled by years of circulation. These circulated examples remain common today, serving as nostalgic reminders of a bygone era. But a handful of 1942 pennies, those struck under exceptional conditions and preserved from circulation, remain as pristine time capsules, embodying the mint's craftsmanship in flawless detail. It is these rare survivors, untouched by the wear of commerce, that achieve valuations in the seven-figure range. Condition, as always, is the ultimate factor in numismatics. A worn 1942 penny may be of sentimental or historical interest, but in monetary terms, it is worth little. By contrast, a gem-quality example, graded at the highest levels by professional certification services, becomes a rarity of global significance. It is the difference between an everyday object and a masterpiece. In the numismatic market, such a distinction translates into immense financial value, and in the case of the 1942 penny, into a figure as extraordinary as $150,000. Auction houses present such coins with the reverence they deserve. When a pristine 1942 penny appears on the market, it is showcased in glossy catalogues, its surfaces photographed in extraordinary detail, its provenance described with care. Collectors and investors from across the world are drawn into bidding wars, each determined to secure not only a coin, but a piece of history that is virtually unattainable. The atmosphere is electric, the competition fierce, and when the gavel finally falls, the result is often record-breaking. The coin leaves the auction block not merely as copper, but as cultural heritage, is art, is treasure. Provenance, too, plays an essential role in the mystique of the 1942 penny. Many of the finest surviving examples can be traced back through decades of careful stewardship, often preserved by visionary collectors who understood their importance long before the market reflected it. To acquire such a coin is not simply to hold wealth, it is to inherit a legacy, to become part of a chain of custodianship that stretches back generations. Each owner becomes part of the story, adding their name to the narrative of a coin that has outlived wars, recessions, and generations of change. The sheer transformation of value, embodied by the 1942 penny, is one of its most captivating qualities. What was once worth 1 cent, the smallest fraction of a loaf of bread or a tram fare, is now worth more than mansions, luxury cars, or entire investment portfolios. This extraordinary metamorphosis encapsulates the very essence of numismatics, the discovery of immense value, hidden within the ordinary, the elevation of a utilitarian object into something priceless. For investors, the 1942 penny represents a rare opportunity to secure a tangible asset of enduring value. Unlike traditional investments that rise and fall with economic cycles, coins like this are defined by fixed supply and timeless demand. There will never be more gem-quality 1942 pennies than exist today. As global interest in rare coins continues to grow, particularly among high-net-worth individuals seeking diversification into culturally significant assets, the value of such rarities is likely to remain not only stable, but increasingly elevated. For historians, the coin is a portal into wartime Australia, a tangible artifact that speaks to the resilience of a nation under pressure. For collectors, it is the ultimate prize, a symbol of expertise, passion, and connoisseurship. For the public, it is a story of wonder, how a penny could become worth more than $1 million. And for all who encounter it, the coin offers a powerful lesson. Greatness often hides in the most unexpected places. The 1942 Australian 1 penny, valued today at $150,000, is far more than a coin. It is history frozen in copper, a symbol of identity and resilience, a masterwork of preservation, and a treasure of staggering worth. It is at once an artifact, an investment, a story, and a dream. It proves that even the smallest denomination, when elevated by rarity, condition, and history, can become a national treasure and a global marvel. It is not just a penny, it is a masterpiece, a legend, and one of the crown jewels of Australian numismatics. Next up, the 1947 Australian one. Penny is one of those coins that defies imagination. A humble piece of copper that once circulated in everyday transactions, now transformed into a multi-millionaire's prize with a staggering market valuation of $400. To the untrained eye, it may look like any other penny, but to collectors, historians, and investors, the 1947 penny is an extraordinary relic, rare, historically significant, and revered as a symbol of Australia's numismatic legacy. To understand its allure, we must travel back to the immediate post-war years. Australia in 1947 was a nation in transition. The devastation of the Second World War was still fresh in memory, yet the country was pushing forward into a new era of reconstruction, immigration, and modernization. Economic life had to resume, and with it, the production of coinage for commerce. Pennies, the backbone of daily transactions, continued to be struck in large numbers, passing through the hands of ordinary Australians as the country rebuilt its industries and society. The design of the coin is one that had already become iconic by this time. On the obverse is the dignified portrait of King George VI, the reigning monarch, whose leadership had carried the Commonwealth through the darkest years of the war. His image symbolized continuity and stability, values that were critical in a world still healing from global conflict. On the reverse, the leaping kangaroo, introduced nearly a decade earlier, had cemented itself as the defining emblem of Australia's national coinage. Strong, dynamic, and uniquely Australian, the kangaroo represented resilience and progress, qualities perfectly suited for a nation eager to forge ahead into the future. Yet, while millions of 1947 pennies were struck, almost all went directly into circulation, where they quickly acquired the wear and tear of daily use. This is why most examples found today are well worn, worth little more than a small collector's premium. The story changes entirely, however, when we turn to the handful of specimens that were struck under the best conditions and preserved with meticulous care. These near-perfect survivors, graded at the highest levels of mint state, are the coins that have captured global attention. Their flawless surfaces, sharp details, and radiant original luster elevate them far beyond the realm of ordinary currency into the category of numismatic masterpieces. It is this condition rarity that explains the breathtaking valuation of $400,000, while a circulated 1947 penny might sell for only a few dollars. An immaculate gem-quality specimen is worth a fortune. The difference lies not in design or metal content, but in survival. How a few coins manage to escape the harsh fate of circulation and remain untouched for decades. In numismatics, condition is everything. And for the 1947 penny, condition has transformed the ordinary into the extraordinary. Auction houses that present such coins know they are dealing with something special. Catalogs feature full-page photographs that capture the brilliance of the copper surfaces, magnifying every detail of the king's portrait and the kangaroo's leap. Provenance is highlighted, tracing the coin's history of ownership through decades of careful stewardship. When these coins appear at auction, the atmosphere is electric. Collectors from across the world, seasoned investors, and museums all compete for the chance to own one of the finest survivors of Australia's post-war coinage. The bidding is fierce, often surpassing expectations, until the gavel falls and history is made once again. The importance of provenance cannot be overstated. Many of the finest 1947 pennies come with pedigrees, having been preserved in private collections for generations. Each custodian adds a chapter to the coin's narrative, ensuring its survival and enhancing its mystique. To acquire such a coin is not just to purchase copper, it is to join a lineage of collectors, to take on the role of steward for one of Australia's great numismatic treasures. The transformation of the 1947 penny's value is almost poetic. Once worth a single cent, it was used to purchase milk, bread, or tram tickets. Today, that same penny can be worth more than luxury cars, entire collections of jewelry, or a substantial property. This incredible leap in value captures the essence of why numismatics is so captivating. It is not just about metal and minting, but about history, preservation, rarity, and the human fascination with the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary. For investors, the 1947 penny offers something rare and invaluable, a tangible asset with fixed supply and global demand. Unlike stocks, bonds, or commodities, its rarity cannot be reproduced or increased. The number of pristine 1947 pennies that exist today is all that will ever exist. And as interest in rare coins continues to grow, so too will their value. Collectors and high net worth individuals recognize these coins not only as financial assets, but as cultural treasures that carry prestige and legacy. For historians, the 1947 penny is a portal into the era of post-war Australia. It embodies the resilience of a nation recovering from global conflict, the pride of national identity captured in its kangaroo design, and the continuity of monarchy represented in the portrait of George VI. For collectors, it is the pinnacle of achievement, a coin so rare, so perfect, that it becomes the crown jewel of any collection. For the public, it offers a story of wonder, a reminder that even the smallest and most ordinary of objects can hold unimaginable worth. The 1947 Australian one penny, valued at $400,000, is thus more than a coin. It is a piece of history, a masterpiece of preservation, and a cultural symbol of resilience and progress. It is an artifact, an investment, a story, and a legend all in one. It stands as a powerful reminder that greatness often lies in the unlikeliest of places, waiting for time and human fascination to bring it to light. It is not just a penny, it is a national treasure and one of the most celebrated rarities in Australia's numismatic heritage.